He has shared with me that he regrets what went down that night, that it would not happen again in the future, and he wishes he could change the way things happened.
The young basketball prodigy, who was already worth millions, just found himself sentenced for 9 felony charges, with close to 3 decades of prison time staring him right in the face. And all of this happened at the absolute cost of his peak career, the years he was supposed to be dominating. So what in the world really happened on that fateful night, and is Mikey Williams' career truly over forever? Let's break it all down, exploring both the incredible rise and the devastating fall. Before we can even dive into the courtroom drama, the high-stakes plea deals, and the explosive allegations that nearly sent Mikey Williams to a prison cell for 30 years, you have to understand exactly who this young man was before his entire world came crashing down around him.
What's harder, you think?
Basketball's harder. Basketball's harder.
Basketball's harder. How's it harder? I think
positions, because you got 5. Positions are hard to guard in basketball. I don't know, the game is just different. Football, it's like you depend a lot on your size, strength. You got to be smart, but you don't got to be that smart to play football. Like basketball, you got to have...
Because you see, Mikey Williams wasn't just some ordinary run-of-the-mill high school basketball player. No, this was a kid who became a viral sensation before he was even old enough to get a driver's license. A video of him dunking as a mere 8th grader absolutely exploded online, racking up nearly 100,000 views almost overnight. And from that exact moment forward, the entire basketball world had their eyes locked onto this San Diego prodigy, waiting to see what he would do next.
I did cook you in basketball. Get off. Spit them out. Cough them up. Please and thank you. Man, talk to me. I'm finna get off here. Told my mom about this. I don't know.
Born on November 6, 2000 V, right in San Diego, California. Mikey came from some seriously athletic bloodlines. His father, Mullen, was an all-CI basketball player at Sweetwater High School, and his mother, Charisse, was a star softball player at Hampton University. For this kid, basketball wasn't just some hobby he picked up. It was literally woven into his DNA, and the world took notice almost immediately. We're talking about a middle schooler who was already training with NBA-level coaches and playing right alongside Bronny James himself, the son of the one and only LeBron James. That's the kind of elite company Mikey Williams was keeping before he ever stepped foot inside a high school gymnasium. By the time he arrived at San Isidro High School in San Diego, Mikey had built a social media following that most professional athletes could only dream of, with over 3.7 million followers on Instagram and another 2.1 million on TikTok. He had transcended being just a basketball player. He was a brand, a full-blown movement, a phenomenon that went far beyond the sport itself. And then, of course, came the money. In October 2021, when Mikey was just 17 years old, he made history, becoming the very first American high school basketball player to sign a multi-year footwear and apparel deal with a giant like Puma. Just think about that for a moment, a 17-year-old kid securing a massive sponsorship deal that seasoned NBA players spend their careers chasing. His NIL valuation was estimated to be somewhere between a staggering $2.3 million to $3.6 million, depending on which source you look at. He was living the absolute dream that every young basketball player fantasizes about. The fame, the fortune, and a future that seemed limitless. His senior season at San Isidro was nothing short of spectacular. He was averaging an incredible 23.8 points, 9.2 assists, and 3.2 rebounds per game. But perhaps even more impressive was that mind-blowing 77-point game that went viral and cemented his status as one of the most electrifying high school players in the entire nation. On November 5, 2022, Mikey Williams verbally committed to play basketball at the prestigious University of Memphis, joining forces with his high school teammate, J.J. Taylor. Coach Penny Hardaway, a former NBA superstar himself, was waiting with open arms. The path to basketball immortality seemed paved with solid gold. He was ranked as the number 19 overall recruit by 2047 Sports, a 4-star prospect with undeniable 5-star potential. The Memphis Tigers were getting a generational talent and Mikey Williams was getting his golden ticket to the promised land. But here's the thing about the promised land. Sometimes the road that leads you there takes a dark, twisted, and completely unexpected turn. On March 27, 2023, just months before Mikey Williams was supposed to kick off his college basketball career at Memphis, everything changed. And when I say everything, I mean absolutely everything. Shortly before midnight at Williams's $1.2 million home in unincorporated Jammu, San Diego County, a group of people arrived uninvited via an Uber. They were there to visit J.J. Taylor, who was living at the residence with Mike. What began as an unexpected late-night visit quickly spiraled into something far more sinister. An argument broke out, tensions flared, and then gunshots. Let me paint you a vivid picture of this chaotic scene. A white Tesla Model 3, carrying 5 to 6 passengers, including the Uber driver, was trying to leave the property after being told to get out. And as that car pulled away into the darkness of the California night, bullets started flying. The vehicle's trunk and rear windshield were struck by gunfire. Photos later presented as evidence showed the bullet holes clear as day. Miraculously, and I cannot stress this part enough, nobody inside that vehicle was injured. Not a single person caught a bullet. But the real damage was already done. Not to the passengers, but to Mikey Williams's entire future. On April 13, 2023, Mikey Williams was arrested and then released on The charges were serious. 5 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, and 1 count of shooting at an occupied vehicle. If he were convicted on all counts, the 17-time DAU champion was staring down a potential prison sentence of up to 28 years behind bars for a kid who hadn't even turned 19 yet. The dream was rapidly turning into a nightmare. The Puma deal, gone. Williams lost his incredibly lucrative NIL deal amid the charges, and the University of Memphis. He was immediately suspended from all team-related facilities and activities while his legal case played out thousands of miles away in California. And then, the charges got even worse. Following the preliminary hearing in October 2023, 3 additional felonies were tacked onto his case. The total now stood at 9 felony counts. 6 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, 1 count of firing into an occupied vehicle, and 2 counts of making criminal threats. The potential sentence had now ballooned to up to 30 years in prison. 30 years, 3 decades of his life, potentially spent in a prison cell, for a kid who was supposed to be playing basketball on national television. But what exactly happened that night? What did the witnesses actually see? And was Mikey Williams really the one who pulled the trigger? The answer to that question would ultimately determine whether this basketball prodigy spent the prime of his life in an orange jumpsuit, or back on the hardwood where he belonged. The trial and the search for the truth was the preliminary hearing that took place on October 10, 2023, proved to be one of the most pivotal moments in Mikey Williams's young life. What emerged from that courtroom painted a complicated, messy picture that was far from black and white. 3 juveniles took the stand to testify against Williams. Their testimonies were absolutely damning, describing a young man completely consumed by rage, holding a firearm, and making explicit, terrifying threats against their lives. But here is precisely where things get interesting, and where the prosecution's seemingly airtight case started to show some very serious cracks.
Nobody in the car was hit. One girl testified that Williams told the group, quote, "We better get to stepping or you'll leave with bullet holes." A boy stated that Williams told them here, quote, "Y'all better leave before I kill of you all." So none of the witnesses say that they actually saw Williams open fire on the car, though some of them saw him holding a gun.
Let that sink in for a moment. You have 3 witnesses, 3 people who were supposedly shot at, and not a single one of them actually saw Mikey Williams pull the trigger. They testified that they saw him holding a gun. Yes, they absolutely heard him making threats. But when it came to the critical moment, the actual shooting, there were no direct eyewitnesses who could confirm seeing him discharge that firearm. Witnesses described Williams as appearing intensely angry, emerging from his house holding a semi-automatic handgun equipped with a red targeting laser. One juvenile who testified at the preliminary hearing reported that Williams made explicit threats, including bone-chilling statements like, "I will shoot you, you need to leave now if you don't want a bullet through your car and through your head." Now those are terrifying words to hear from anyone, let alone from a young man holding a loaded weapon. But words, no matter how threatening they are still different from action. And the prosecution was building its entire case on circumstantial evidence rather than direct eyewitness testimony of the actual shooting. Defense attorneys Troy Owens and Randy M. Grossman were not about to go down without a fight. They argued passionately that the case was built on incredibly shaky ground. Yes, there were bullet holes in the car. Yes, Mikey had been seen with a gun. But crucially, no one else at the scene was observed with a firearm. Not J.J. Taylor, not anyone else in the household. The timing was suspicious, and the circumstantial evidence was certainly there. But that direct, undeniable link between Mikey Williams and those bullets leaving the chamber, that was missing. The defense also raised another interesting point. These visitors had arrived uninvited at midnight in the dead of night, without any warning. Could this have been a case of self-defense? A young man protecting his home from what he perceived to be a threat. Prosecutors called that argument laughable, but the seed of doubt had officially been planted. Judge Sherry M. Thompson Taylor ultimately ruled that probable cause existed, and Mikey Williams was ordered to stand trial. The circumstantial evidence, the timeline, the exclusive possession of the firearm by Williams, the immediate gunfire following his threats, it was enough to move the case forward. But both sides knew that a jury trial was a massive gamble. For the prosecution, their case lacked that smoking gun of direct eyewitness testimony. For the defense, the terrifying threats and the bullet holes created a damning narrative that could easily sway any jury. And so, just 2 weeks before the trial was scheduled to begin in December 20, a deal was struck. On November 3, 2023, Mikey Williams pleaded guilty to a single felony count of making criminal threats. Just one count out of the 9 he was facing. The other 8 felony charges were completely dismissed.
He has shared with me that he regrets what went down that night, that it would not happen again in the future, and he wishes he could change the way things happened. I mean, he's an 18-year-old kid. He felt threatened, and he responded in an inappropriate manner.
And this plea deal, it came with some very specific conditions. Williams would be required to complete comprehensive anger management courses, attend gun safety classes, undergo cognitive behavioral therapy, and complete a total of 80 hours of community service. The deal was this. If he successfully completed all of these requirements by his final sentencing date in August 2024, that one felony charge would be reduced to a simple misdemeanor. That meant no prison time, no extended incarceration, just a path focused on rehabilitation, giving back to the community, and getting a second chance at the life he so very nearly threw away entirely.
Get Mikey back on campus, back on the basketball court where he's been his entire life, and he's worked very hard to get to where he was and where he is going to go.
Part of the deal, Williams will need to complete anger management and gun safety courses, plus 80 hours of community service. If he does that by his sentencing in August, the charge will be reduced to a misdemeanor.
Cases are individually looked at. There is no rubber stamp for any set type of case. Looking through the details of Mr. Williams' age, lack of criminal record, all the sorts of everything that took place that night. Both sides got together, worked really hard, and came up with a resolution that we both believe creates justice for Mr. Williams.
The story of Mikey Williams isn't over. It's simply entering a new, more challenging chapter. One that's being written not by viral highlights and million-dollar contracts, but by perseverance, maturity, and the relentless pursuit of redemption. Will he ever actually make it to the NBA? That remains to be seen. His current stats at Sacramento State certainly show promise. Averaging 13 points and 5 to 6 assists per game is nothing to scoff at. But the competition level in the Big Sky Conference is a far cry from the powerhouse conferences like the ACC, Big Ten. Professional scouts will need to see him perform consistently against better opponents before any of those doors to the pros truly open. What we can say for sure is this. Mikey Williams was given a second chance when many people thought he didn't deserve one. A judge saw fit to reduce his felony charge to a misdemeanor. A coaching staff at Sacramento State saw fit to believe in his potential. And now, every single game he plays is an opportunity to prove that the kid who once went viral in middle school still has what it takes to achieve greatness. The fall from grace was spectacular, loud, and brutally public. The climb back up is proving to be slower, quieter, and far less glamorous, but it's happening, game by game, assist by assist, point by point.
Well, Mikey, how you feeling after court today? I feel good, brother. All glory to God. I'm just happy that I made it out of this situation, but I'm just excited to get back to the court.
But the one question that lingered in everyone's mind was this: did Mikey Williams actually fire those shots? His defense attorney, Randy Grossman, was crystal clear on this specific point. Nobody was injured in this case, Grossman stated emphatically after the plea deal was announced. Nobody testified that anybody saw Mikey actually fire the gun, and he didn't admit he was the one who fired the gun. Williams pleaded guilty to making threats. He never once admitted to pulling the trigger. And legally speaking, that distinction matters far more than most people realize. The months that followed became a period of genuine redemption for the young basketball star. He completed well over the required 80 hours of community service, much of it voluntary and aligned with his prior involvement in youth mentoring. He diligently finished the anger management sessions, he attended all the gun safety courses, and he actively participated in cognitive behavioral therapy. By the time August 12, 2024 arrived, Mikey Williams had done everything that was asked of him, and then some. The sentencing hearing took place before Judge Roderick Shelton in San Diego Superior Court. Williams appeared virtually from Florida, where he was already preparing for his college basketball career. And when the judge delivered his final verdict, it was everything the defense had been hoping for. The felony charge was officially reduced to a misdemeanor. Williams received just 1 year of summary probation, which is the least restrictive form available, with no probation officer, no travel limitations, and no requirement to surrender his passport. A 10-year restriction was imposed, banning him from owning or possessing any firearms or ammunition. But there was no jail time, not a single day behind bars. Judge Richard Williams, "You're very fortunate to have this deal." Judge Shelton remarked, "I wish you the best of luck, but learn from this experience. From facing 30 years in prison to walking free with a misdemeanor, it was a legal victory that truly defied all odds." But the road ahead was still going to be long, and Mikey Williams had a lot to prove to a world that had watched him fall so dramatically from grace. And so began the comeback. With the legal nightmare finally behind him, Mikey Williams now faced a different kind of challenge, one that wouldn't be decided in a courtroom, but on the hardwood. The University of Memphis, the school that had once welcomed him with such open arms, was no longer in the picture. Williams had been suspended from team activities throughout his legal proceedings, taking his classes online, but never once suiting up in a Tigers uniform. By the time his case was resolved, too much time had passed, and too many bridges had been burned. In January 2024, Williams transferred to the University of Central Florida. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a new beginning, but the reality was far less glamorous than anyone had hoped. In the 2024-25 season at UCF, Williams played in just 18 games, averaging a mere 5.1 points per game in only 14 minutes of action. An undisclosed foot injury severely limited his production, and the once dominant high school phenom found himself struggling just to find his footing at the college level. This wasn't the Mikey Williams that the basketball world had fallen in love with. This was a shadow of his former self, a young man trying to pick up the pieces of a shattered dream, while battling both physical limitations and the immense weight of his past mistakes. In March 2025, Williams entered the NCAA transfer portal once again. He was searching for a new home, a new opportunity, a place where he could finally showcase the incredible talent that had made him a household name just a few short years earlier, and then, fate intervened in the most unexpected way possible. Sacramento State had just hired NBA legend Mike Bibby as their new head coach. And if that wasn't enough to turn heads, they also brought in the one and only Shaquille O'Neal as the program's general manager. Yes, that Shaquille O'Neal, the four-time NBA champion, the Hall of Famer, the larger-than-life personality, who had decided to invest his time and energy into building a mid-major program from the ground up. When Mikey Williams saw what was happening in Sacramento, he saw something more than just another basketball opportunity. He saw a chance at true redemption under the guidance of basketball legends, who understood what it meant to face adversity and come out stronger on the other side. On May 1, 2025, Williams officially signed with Sacramento State. The former four-star recruit was joining forces with Bibby and O'Neal in what could only be described as one of the most intriguing basketball experiments in recent college history. His debut on November 4, 2025, showed flashes of the old Mikey Williams. He scored 10 points and dished out 6 assists in his first game as a Hornet. It wasn't a dominant performance, but it was a start, a foundation to build upon. And then came November 11, 2025, against UC Santa Barbara. Mikey Williams erupted for 30 points on 10 for 16 shooting from the field, including 4 for 7 from three-point range, along with 5 assists. 30 points, his first 30-point game at the college level. The basketball world took note. This was the Mikey Williams that everyone had been waiting for. The explosive scorer, the dynamic playmaker, the prodigy who had once been destined for NBA stardom. Through 8 games of the 2025-26 season, Williams is averaging 13.3 points, 3.1 rebounds, and 5.5 assists per game. He's starting every game for the Hornets, playing over 34 minutes per contest, and serving as the engine that drives Sacramento State's offense. But the road hasn't been entirely smooth. Against number 19 UCLA on November 18th, Williams struggled mightily, shooting just 2 for 14 from the field for only 9 points. 2 days later against California, he managed just 7 points on 2 for 11. When facing elite competition, the limitations that had haunted him at UCF seemed to resurface. The Sacramento State Hornets currently sit at 4-4 on the season. They've dominated lesser opponents like San Francisco State and Dominican, but suffered lopsided losses to powerhouses like UCLA and California. Some online critics have been harsh. Social media posts call him overwhelmed against power conference competition. Others question whether he has the tools to ever make it to the NBA. The incredible buzz that once surrounded him has been replaced by skepticism and doubt. And then there are the rumors. Vicious rumors have circulated online alleging that Mikey Williams has gang affiliations. YouTube videos with sensationalized titles claim that leaked tapes show him admitting to gang ties. Social media posts speculate about his tattoos, like the 62-6 on his hand, and whether they signify something more sinister than regional pride. But here's the absolute truth. These claims are largely unsubstantiated rumors, often amplified by social media speculation and sensationalized clickbait content. No credible sources, not court records, not investigative journalists, not law enforcement, have ever confirmed any gang affiliations. His 2023 legal case involved firearm charges, but absolutely zero gang-related accusations. The 62-6 tattoo is commonly interpreted as the area code for San Gabriel Valley, California. Regional pride, not gang symbolism. And those leaked tapes that YouTube videos promise, they don't exist. The content itself is just recycled news about his legal case, dressed up with clickbait headlines to generate views. It's a harsh reminder that in the age of social media, rumors can spread faster than the truth. And for someone like Mikey Williams, a young man already carrying the weight of his past mistakes, these baseless allegations only add to the burden he's trying so hard to overcome. So where does all of this leave us? Mikey Williams is 20. He's a college basketball player at Sacramento State, playing under the guidance of NBA legends Mike Bibby and Shaquille O'Neal. He's on summary probation that will expire within a year, with no violations or new legal issues reported as of November 20. The Puma deal is gone. The millions of dollars in NIL money have completely evaporated. The 5-star hype and the projections of lottery pick status have all faded into a distant memory. But Mikey Williams is still here, still playing, and still fighting for a future that once seemed guaranteed, but now must be earned every single day.